Coach, with the evolution of the summer program, how much does that help all the extra hours, allowing you in a situation like this where you've got pretty much an entire new team to get you've got to get your team ready essentially for the start of practice?
Yeah, it's so much different than it used to be. I think back to when I was playing and when I first got into coaching. When I was playing, the coaches didn't touch the players at all. And honestly, until school started, if they did, it was in small groups of 4 or less, and you didn't do anything as a team on the court until October 15th. And I know that was a long time ago, but it wasn't that long ago. And so how that's evolved in the time that I've been in coaching until now is very significant. So we get the 4 hours a week in the summertime for 8 weeks, and we can use that however we want from a basketball perspective. We get that same 4 hours a week in the fall preseason until we start that official practice, which will be for us Monday. But we're going to have saved 4 hours for Sunday, so that type of thing. But so Sunday will be the first official practice for our program. But as it looks on the NCAA calendar, Monday will be practice 1 of 30. But practice 1 for us will be on Sunday. So anyway, yeah, it's changed a lot. I think how to use that time is something you think in a lot of depth about with the changing landscape. So, years ago we used to use the first 4 weeks primarily for skill development, and it was program-based skill development. Now you get into the team concepts much quicker, and I think that summertime and this fall period is so much more important for team development than maybe it was 5, 6, 7 years ago. Yeah, you guys know the premium that there is on skill and shooting in our league, and Jordy Rodriguez has a reputation in Europe is one of the great shooters in his generation, or his age group, and playing for the Spanish national team. He's played minutes in the ACB league in the first division of Spain, which is one of the best professional leagues in the world. He's played very significant minutes in the second league in Spain, which is also a very well-respected level of basketball. And so he brings, obviously, skill and shooting, but he has a tremendous feel offensively as a player. Passes it well, moves without the ball really well, and he's got pretty good length and size for a guard at 6'7". And then the same thing with Lucas Atari. He's played professional basketball in Brazil. It shoots it really well, has really good feel, and he has a level of toughness that I think, at least we felt in the evaluation, that would translate to the way that we defend and the things that happen within this league.
Kind of going off that, with those kinds of players, Baba included, is there maybe something that they have that puts them a step ahead of other players in college because they've been at the pro ranks, or is there something that kind of they have to catch up on that you see as common between those kind of players?
Yeah, there's going to be transition because of the style of play. I'm certainly a lot more experienced dealing with the transition from Europe to the United States because I've coached a lot of kids that came from Europe. The South American level or the Brazilian level, this is my first experience coaching somebody making that transition. So there's going to be transition, just like when somebody goes from America to play overseas. In year one, there's a transition to style of play. It's the same thing because the game is a little bit different. But I think what you're asking, these guys are older than your typical first-year players in college, right? So they do have experience playing with older players, playing at a very high level, and you hope that makes the transition to college basketball a little bit less.
Coach, you mentioned in the past your passion and love for coaching. What have you been most encouraged with this current group that you have?
Well, just kind of that. I appreciate the question. You guys are doing good so far today, but I've enjoyed them. I've really genuinely enjoyed the time on the court with this group to date. It's, like anything else, you got to find your why, and like one of the things that's my why is how much I enjoy just walking out onto the court and doing what I love to do every day. And to date, this group has been as fun to work with as any group I've coached. And again, we got a long way to go and a lot to go through, but I have enjoyed this group a lot, and that'd be something that stuck out to me so far.
What's most encouraging about what you'll bring in the post this year, Wes? Do you feel like that group will be improved collectively? Changes you've made?
Yeah, and I think it was important for us as we were trying to craft this roster that we had some guys that we could throw the ball back to the basket to play through. And I think we have a couple guys we added for sure in, Jalen Haynes. And he's undersized in terms of height. And he does it a little unconventionally, right? He's not just like going to ram you all the time and get to the rim. Like, he can face up. He handles it well. He can play in the low post, the mid post. He can play out on the floor. But you can throw him the ball and isolate him and create offense for the team and for himself. And then Mustafa has been a surprise there. We knew he had skill and touch, but his ability to score back to the basket's been very impressive, especially when he gets a deeper catch. Like, he can go over both shoulders. And that touch that you're able to see when he was playing out of the dunker spot last year, like, he has the ability to do it in the post area back to the basket too, and that's been neat to see. So we added two guys that can score it down there in the box without advantages. And then, Tyler McKinley and Halveen are physical guys in their own right that we returned that, fans didn't see anything, didn't see much of at all. But those guys have some ability to score back to the basket too. So in that sense, it's a much different look than we had a year ago.
When it comes to internal player leadership, there was always kind of a formula. Younger guys grow, get old, and take on leadership. You have that a little bit with Day, but how difficult is it with almost an entirely new team establishing that kind of who is going to be, the voice inside the locker room?
Listen, if you had, 4 fifth-year seniors that have been through the battles and all that, that'd be the easiest thing there is in regards to your question. That's going to be more and more rare. And when you're able to execute that, it'll be a special thing. But everybody in college basketball is having to, no matter who you are, where you are, is having to deal with situations where that's not quite the case. What we do have is Day. And I think that's rare, that he's in year 3. He's a fifth-year college player. He'll be a 3-year Big 12 player. He understands what it means to play at Cincinnati. He understands playing in the Big 12. And he has the right values and characters internally. And so the team respects him, the coaching staff respects him. And so we do have that. So there'll be years in college basketball that you won't have that anymore. And we maybe don't have it to the old school sense. But we have it with Day, and I think that's been pretty good from a coaching standpoint. I'm proud of that.
You mentioned in a private setting a couple exhibitions. Can you elaborate on those, or
have we released any of our exhibition information yet? I cannot. There you go.
Well, that's why I asked. Is your roster full? Any room for anyone coming or anyone that was here?
I don't have any updates regard to roster or anything to add there.
With the roster, you have a lot of people that are multiple that I feel like can play multiple positions. I know it's early, but how fun is that for you to be able to have like guys that you kind of move a little bit everywhere, because of most of the time this position is basketball more so than not nowadays. But how fun is it to have guys that you feel like can play multiple spots?
Yeah, I think the versatility of the roster is not by chance. I think there's a number of players that can slide to different traditional positions, even though basketball is not always traditional anymore. But you're going to have lineup versatility. Like, we have the ability to go really small, right, and still not be totally small up front, because we have some guys with great size and length up front. We have the ability to go really big and kind of everything in between, whether it's versatility with size, whether it's versatility with decision-making, versatility with, strength and toughness around the basket, whether it's versatility with shooting. I mean, there's a lot to do there, and I think part of our design as we're trying to put this team together is that we design a system of play that allows that versatility to take shape without having to make a lot of changes on the fly during the season. So if we want to make different lineup type of changes, we're able to do it without having to make strategic changes in the middle of January. Very good question.
We've heard a lot about Keyshawn Tillery and being hard to keep off the floor even in his true freshman year. Has that plan stayed the same for him, or are you approaching that in any different way, and how has he kind of responded?
He's been great, guys. He's been great. You know, you can tell by his approach this summer, he has an expectation. You know, like sometimes the external expectations, I don't worry about that. Don't think about it. It doesn't really cross my mind at all. But you can tell he has an expectation because of the way that he came in the door and approached our summer. And we did some things. We're doing some things week to week where we kind of evaluate their approach and some of the controllable aspects that I think really impact an organization's success. Like his grading in the summer was as good as anybody on our team. So certainly you guys know the abilities there, those of you that have had a chance to watch him at the grassroots level or the high school level. He had great moments this summer, and he's really had a nice work ethic and approach in the time he's been here. He's a freshman point guard. That's the most difficult position, I think, to transition from high school to college, and certainly now you're transitioning into the best league in America. So there's going to be some tough moments, but I have a ton of confidence that he can have a very successful freshman year here.
You saw Chom twice last year. How relieving is it that he's in your colors now?
That he's in my presence?
In your colors.
Colors.
On your team.
Colors. Moo is such a fascinating player. And I think you look at our roster, guys, and it's easy to point to some of the experience. I mean, there's a lot of experience on the roster. Again, that's very much by design. There's still a ton of youth, too. Like, we got a nice little balance there. And Mustafa's supposed to be a freshman. Like, I don't think he gets enough credit for – he was supposed to be in high school last year, and he classed up in the summer to go to school a year early. So he's playing as a high school freshman in the Big 12 last year and had relative levels of success. So it's fascinating that he obviously is an impactful player, but how much better he's going to be able to get between now and the first game in November, between November and league play, and then league play to the second half of league play. Like, I don't have the answers. I just know that there's so much room for him to grow, and that's pretty cool. Terrific kid. His skill set's very unique for somebody 7'2". He certainly has a presence defensively. I think he thinks I'm crazy sometimes because I've been extremely demanding, but that's because I think he could be really special.
Jalen Celestine's a guy that maybe hasn't been talked about much. What has he brought to this locker room and team, and how has having a veteran presence like him helped with that continued development of Sean Abayev?
Yeah, Jalen, I joked with him today when I saw him in the cafeteria. I said he's the first player coach since Bill Russell that I know about, and I'm just kind of giving him a hard time because sometimes I look at him and think that he's 35 years old or something, but I'm just halfway joking. Listen, he has a tremendous social awareness about him, and he's a very genuine person, a very mature person, and you can see that everybody gravitates to him. Like, he's got a great way about him with people, as I just mentioned. He has great perspective. Like, think of the time he spent at Cal, the time he was at Baylor. He's been through a little bit with injuries and things, and he's got a great perspective with everybody he interacts with. And you can tell that he's a guy that's going to get along with everybody on the team and in his own right have leadership because of his experience. So, again, I thought the combination of experience, high-achieving character, competitive edge, and then making sure that we also sprinkled in some other qualities with some of these young guys, I thought was really important, and the experience side for him was really big for us.
With Baba Miller, how unique is his size, length, ability, at 6'11", to help you out from multiple different spots, and getting to go over and watch him with the Spanish national team? Did you maybe pick up some ideas on, ways that he can be effective?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I felt like going that week we were off. The first week of August is usually a vacation week in coaching. I think if you look at most coaches, like wedding anniversaries, they're all they're all in that, first 10 days of August. It's probably one of the only slow times that's left in our profession. But with Baba playing for the national team, I thought it was a great opportunity for two things, Chad. One, to go meet his family, because I wasn't able to meet them in the recruiting process. They were over in Spain. And then two, to watch him in a different environment, and an environment that I have a great respect for. The head of the Spanish National Federation and coach, Sergio Scariolo, somebody that I've always admired as a coach. I consider him a friend. He's always been very good to me. So I was able to go watch Baba be around one of the great coaches in our sport, and give some access and that kind of thing. So it was better than any vacation. What I'd say I got from it was seeing him in a different environment definitely helped me see some things that I wasn't able to see in our summer practices. The other thing gave me confidence that our summer practices were good for our team, because he looked better in that environment than he did in our summer practices, and I thought our practices gave him confidence because it was hard in practice. And then he went over there and played against, and the games he was playing, there was other NBA players playing in those games. And he was playing against old professional players, senior national team players, and he did well. So I got a lot out of it. It energized me, and I think it helped me see him in a different light. So that ended up being a really good choice.
I'm curious. Could be a obvious question, but you have Sean Abayev coming in, high-powered offensive guy, Sincere Harris, one of the better defenders in the country. When you're at practice, will you kind of force those two together to put Sean through the ringer offensively? And do you do that with a lot of players on the team?
I think, the thing you guys got to understand about Sincere or Buck, we call him Buck, so I don't want to start confusing you guys later when I start saying Buck. But with him, he's going to make it a confrontational thing on every defensive possession with whoever's in front of him. Not in a negative way, like he's wired that way. He is uber competitive, uber edgy on that end of the floor, and talented there. And so that's not by some like coaching design, but he's going to do that with everybody he matches up with. And so that's been good for our whole team and our whole roster. And then it's been infectious a little bit, because Day may not be as outwardly edgy, but he's got a fire that burns pretty deep, so it brings out a level of his edge, right? And then Jalen Haynes is outwardly edgy too, right, in a good way, and it brings it out. So practice has been, in the summertime, it was maybe a little bit more competitive than I've seen that early in the season, and a lot of them have a lot to do with that, but Buck certainly has a lot to do with it too.
Have you seen the value of Kirk Carissa, and is he the funniest guy on the team?
Value, yeah. We've talked, again, we haven't gone up and down the whole roster, but I think I mentioned earlier about the value of guys with experience, and what they can bring to this team. And Kerr brings that more than anybody, right? He's played on a top 5 team in the country as a key player. This is, his last year of college basketball. He's experienced quite a bit. We talked about Jalen Celestine. Kerr's experienced even more. And so his value is very, very significant to this team in a lot of different ways. And then on the court, his ability to advance the ball and get the ball out of his hands and make others better, it's been infectious. So some of the passing that we've seen in our summer practices and some of these fall settings that we've had the last couple of weeks, like the passing has been significant, and I think some of that is Kerr's really set a tone with how we're going to share the ball.
4 of the guys you're bringing in, you've coached against before. How much has that helped with how you approach their development this offseason?
I've coached
against. So Kirk Carissa, Sincere. Yeah. How much has that helped with how you approach their development this offseason and how you use them within your own system?
Yeah, I think you're always looking in these short windows of recruitment in the spring portal. You're trying to put a microscope in a short period of time to come up with very crucial decisions in recruiting. And this isn't the only way to have confidence, but when you've coached against somebody, especially within the league, multiple times, you've really broken their games down, and then you've seen it live. So that gives you some sense of security about who you're getting and what they can and can't do, right, or what their limitations or strengths are. It's not the only way. There's lots of other ways to get that information. So, yeah, it's one. I think when you see guys transferring within leagues, a lot of it is because coaches have, a very strong opinion about what that player is because they've played against him or coached against him so much. So, that's an edge in one sense, and I'm sure there's other ways to get that without maybe you recruited him in high school for a couple years or, maybe you played against him in a non-conference situation. But, yeah, that's different than just watching synergy, right, when you've actually seen a guy up live and personal, up close live in person. That's it? All right. Thanks.